What you're about to hear is more than just science fiction, it's a glimpse into what might already be out there. If you love mysterious space stories, alien encounters, and humanity's fight for survival, make sure to subscribe, and join me as we dive into today's tale, the Sun's hidden secret. NASA films a mysterious object for hours. I've worked at NASA for over 20 years, and in that time, I thought I had seen everything the universe could throw at us. Solar flares, plasma storms, anomalies in magnetic fields, phenomena so vast and violent they dwarfed anything humanity could ever imagine building. But that morning was different. I was sipping lukewarm coffee when the alert chimed on my console. At first, I thought it was just another coronal mass ejection, the kind we'd logged 1,000 times before. The monitors glowed with the familiar angry fire of the sun, swirling in endless storms. But then a shape cut across the screen, blotting out the light. I leaned closer, adjusting the filters, certain it had to be an error, maybe a glitch in the imaging array. Yet the longer I stared, the less it looked like a trick. The silhouette wasn't jagged or natural, it was sharp, geometric, and vast. I felt my breath catch in my throat. The object hovered near the solar surface, impossibly close to a star whose gravity should have consumed it instantly. It didn't move, not with the chaotic drift of a rock, but with a steady defiance, as though it belonged there. Hours passed, and still it stayed, its outline shimmering as though feeding on the sun itself. My colleagues murmured around me, confusion turning to dread. For the first time in my career, I felt small, not just as a scientist, but as a human being. This wasn't a flare or a shadow. This was deliberate. Built. Designed. And whatever it was larger than Earth itself. My trembling hands hovered over the console as I whispered words I never thought I would say out loud. That's no asteroid. Someone put it there. Within hours of the sighting, the footage was classified at the highest level, and only a handful of us were allowed to view it. A secured chamber, stark and cold, became the gathering point for scientists, military advisors, and representatives from the highest echelons of government. I sat among them, feeling the weight of my badge heavier than ever before. The air was thick with tension, punctuated by hushed conversations and the occasional sharp click of a pen against a table. Every eye in the room was fixed on the monitor, replaying the shadow over the sun over and over. Questions flew around the room like sparks in a storm. Was it alien? Could it be some unknown solar phenomenon? Was it a weapon? Every suggestion carried an undercurrent of fear. The generals, seated in rigid lines at the front, demanded answers, their voices low but urgent. What is it? One asked. Could it threaten Earth? Another added, if it is intelligent, do we even stand a chance? I swallowed hard, feeling the gravity of their words press against my chest. I replayed the footage again, zooming in on the object's edges. It shimmered in the solar glow, almost alive, absorbing the sun's plasma as if it were fuel. If it can withstand that heat, I said, my voice barely audible, then nothing we have can match it. Murmurs of disbelief spread through the room, some angry, some fearful. The realization settled slowly. This wasn't a natural phenomenon, and we weren't merely observers anymore. The object's presence changed everything. Secrets whispered in the corridors of power suddenly had a tangible, almost terrifying form. For the first time in my life, I understood the fragile line humanity walked in the universe. And beneath the fear, a quiet, undeniable truth grew. If this object was real, if it was watching, then humanity's future had just changed forever. In that cold, echoing chamber, I felt the weight of our vulnerability, and the spark of defiance that would not be extinguished. I couldn't sleep that night. The memory of the object lingered, a shadow across my thoughts, and the hum of the observatory systems seemed louder in the silence of my apartment. At precisely 3:17 a.m., an alert flashed across my console, an anomaly in the data streams from the Solar Dynamics Observatory. At first, I assumed it was another glitch, but the patterns repeated, too structured to be random. The signal pulsed in rhythms, frequencies overlapping in ways that seemed almost melodic. My stomach tightened as I realized this was no ordinary cosmic interference. It was intelligent. I stayed at the observatory, alone, running translation algorithms and data analyses, my hands shaking despite the chill in the room. The sequences repeated, a haunting symphony of binary and harmonic tones, like someone had encoded music into mathematics. As I worked, fragments began to form, images, symbols, hints of meaning. Then, a phrase emerged from the chaos, *Hunters awaken. I stared at the screen, my heart hammering in disbelief. Hunters. What did it mean? Who were they? And why now, after hours of watching the sun, did they choose to speak? I called the other scientists, but the signal was only detectable on my terminal. They urged caution, yet I felt compelled to dig deeper. Each repetition of the phrase carried an almost physical weight, a sense of imminent movement. It was as if the sun itself had become a messenger, sending a warning directly to us. Sleep fled from me entirely as I tried to comprehend the implications. If this was a message, it was a declaration, an announcement of presence, a statement of intent. And though fear gripped me, a flicker of determination grew stronger. Humanity had always faced the unknown with courage, sometimes recklessly, sometimes brilliantly. If hunters truly were awakening, I realized that we would have to face them, not as victims, but as humans unbroken, ready to fight for our survival against forces we could barely imagine. The government's response was swift, but secrecy ruled every decision. They wanted silence, a controlled narrative, but whispers have a way of slipping through the cracks. Within days, fragments of the footage found their way to the public, igniting a wildfire of speculation. Social media exploded with theories: alien starships, ancient gods, top-secret human experiments. Headlines screamed, debates raged, and the world stared skyward, hungry for answers we weren't ready to give. Inside the secured facilities, however, the atmosphere was entirely different. Fear and urgency replaced curiosity. We weren't dealing with speculation anymore, we were staring at a tangible threat. As the implications sank in, alliances formed in ways previously unthinkable. Nations that had spent decades at odds suddenly found themselves sharing intelligence, technology, and strategy. Old rivalries became trivial in the face of a potential universal predator. Military commanders, scientists, and engineers collaborated around the clock. Every experiment, every simulation, every test was directed toward understanding the object and preparing humanity for what might come next. The scale of our effort was breathtaking, an unparalleled testament to what humanity could achieve when united. And yet, amid all the planning, a deeper truth emerged. This was no longer merely a question of defense, it was a question of identity. What did it mean to be human in a universe where intelligence beyond our comprehension could watch us from the edges of our solar system? We realized that the object wasn't just a threat, it was a challenge. To survive, we would need ingenuity, courage, and, above all, the will to stand against forces that had likely destroyed countless civilizations before us. One evening, as I stood before a bank of screens, I heard a commander mutter, almost to himself, "We've been prey for too long. Let's show them what humans do when cornered." His words resonated through the facility, and I felt a spark of defiance ignite in every heart present. Humanity, for all its flaws, was learning to fight as one, prepared to meet the unknown not with fear, but with relentless determination. The first sign came without warning. Our instruments, finely tuned to monitor the sun, began to pick up movement. The object that had lingered in the sun's corona for hours, seemingly inert, was now drifting, slowly, deliberately, toward the inner planets. Every satellite, telescope, and monitoring station caught the same sight. An immense structure, impossibly large, gliding through space with precision that defied natural laws. The calm we had clung to shattered in an instant. I was aboard the Athena, humanity's most advanced deep space vessel, stationed at the edge of the inner solar system. The moment the object appeared on our sensors, a shiver ran through the crew. It was larger than any asteroid, more complex than any artificial satellite we had ever built. Its surface shifted like liquid metal, reflecting the sun's plasma in waves of molten brilliance. Even from a distance, we could feel its presence, a silent weight pressing on the hull and on our minds. As we approached, the object seemed to communicate, not with words, but through images projected directly into our instruments. Entire civilizations, entire worlds, reduced to ash and silence. We saw their ships destroyed, their cities crumbling, their people gone. And then, a vision of Earth appeared, untouched but marked, as though under scrutiny. The warning was clear: we were next. Yet, instead of despair, something unexpected ignited within us: rage, defiance, and an unshakable determination. They thought humanity would cower, scatter, or surrender. They had no understanding of what it meant to be human. We had survived floods, wars, plagues, and centuries of cosmic indifference. We had a stubborn, relentless will to live. As I stared at the object, I made a silent vow: they would not take us lightly. Humanity would fight. Whatever this entity was, whoever its creators might be, we would meet them head-on. And for the first time, the crew of the Athena understood that the true battle for survival was about to begin, and that we had no choice but to win. The battle began with a quiet intensity, almost surreal against the backdrop of the sun's blazing fury. The hunters, vast, alien, and unlike anything we had ever imagined, descended into the inner solar system, their ships absorbing the solar radiation as if it were nothing. The fleets we had scrambled were small in comparison, but what we lacked in size, we made up for in ingenuity. Every experimental weapon, every prototype drone, every hidden asset humanity had developed in secret was deployed. The Athena led the charge, engines roaring as we threaded between solar flares and magnetic storms, using the sun itself as both shield and weapon. The hunters were confident, their movements calculated, almost elegant. They assumed we would scatter, flee, or crumble in fear. But humanity does not bow easily. Our vessels swarmed around them, coordinated in maneuvers that no simulation could have predicted. Magnetic pulses disrupted their sensors, and concentrated bursts of energy tore through their hulls. Every strike we launched was met with countermeasures, but we adapted, learning in real time, improvising faster than any machine could anticipate. I shouted commands, my voice barely audible over the roar of engines and alarms. The crew responded with precision born of fear and determination. Each maneuver, each attack, was a testament to the human spirit, our stubborn refusal to be nothing more than prey. In the heart of the solar inferno, we danced between life and death, flares lashing around us, the sun's heat gnawing at the limits of our ships. Finally, a crack appeared in their formation. Their massive flagship, once a monolith of dread, began to falter, light spilling from fractures in its hull. Victory was not yet assured, but we had proven something fundamental: humanity does not submit. As I looked across the fleet, I realized with clarity that this was more than survival, it was a statement. We were not prey. We were hunters too, and we would fight with every ounce of ingenuity, courage, and relentless determination that had carried our species across millennia. The sun blazed around us, witness to the rise of humanity as a force the universe could no longer ignore. When the battle finally subsided, a heavy silence fell across the inner solar system. The hunter's flagship, crippled and fractured, drifted helplessly toward the sun, its hull melting into the solar flames. The other vessels scattered, some retreating, some destroyed, but the message was clear: humanity had survived. Yet the victory felt hollow, tempered by the knowledge that this was only the beginning. We had glimpsed technology far beyond our comprehension, and with it, a warning that the universe was far more dangerous and crowded than we had ever imagined. Aboard the Athena we sifted through the remnants, salvaging fragments of alien machinery and deciphering patterns in the residual energy. Each discovery brought more questions than answers. The hunters were not alone. They were part of a larger cosmic order, a network of civilizations that had likely extinguished countless worlds before us. And yet, buried within the alien designs, there were hints of knowledge we could use: mechanisms to manipulate energy, shields that could withstand unimaginable heat, weapons that bent the laws of physics. Humanity's ingenuity had met the unknown and survived. As I stared at the sun through the observation window, I felt the weight of what we had accomplished. The world would never be the same, and neither would we. Humanity had proven that we could face incomprehensible threats and emerge not just intact, but stronger. Our unity, courage, and relentless determination had turned the tables on forces that expected to crush us. The signal that had started it all, the phrase that haunted my mind for nights, still echoed faintly in the background: hunters awaken. I knew then that this was not the end, but a beginning. Humanity had entered a wider universe of danger and opportunity. And if the hunters, or any other intelligence, dared to return, they would find that we were ready. The sun, once a symbol of warmth and life, now bore witness to our rise. We were no longer prey. We were the force the cosmos would remember: relentless, unyielding, and unmistakably human. The universe is vast, dangerous, and full of secrets. One thing is certain: humanity will never back down. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more epic journeys into the unknown. Until next time, keep watching the stars.